Sport! Friday at 7 p.m, your weekend sports on Talk Radio Europe with the Friday Sports Bar.
Season's greetings, live from the Talk Radio Europe studios and the Friday Night Sports Bar team. You're almost welcome to this hour of sport this evening, live from the Talk Radio Europe studios. Coming up over the next hour, Manchester United are guaranteed to be Christmas number one. However, the Premiership moves into a season-defining festive period. Back to business for the rugby clubs in Europe as the Aviva Premiership, Rabo Pro 12 Direct and the Top 14 is back on the agenda. And Amir Khan gets his career back on track stateside with a comprehensive win over formerly undefeated Carlos Molina. All that and plenty more to come over the next hour with me, Dom Aldworth, Richard Tilsley and Stuart Joseph. And not to forget you out there on the airwaves, stay tuned for the next hour.
Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth. It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Well, good evening and season's greetings to all of you out there. Welcome to this hour of sport live from the Talk Radio Europe studios. I'm waiting for one of my panellists who's fashionably late, as usual. But the other one, unfortunately, cannot join us this evening in the studios. But he is very much with us on the telephone this evening. We're going to bring Stuart Joseph in, Talk Radio Europe's very own football expert. Stu, a warm welcome. Season's greetings to you from the Netherlands.
Hi, good evening. Very cold here. I hear the weather with you is wonderful. Here it's freezing.
Absolutely fantastic, Stu. And Richard has finally just joined us. You know he's always fashionably late when he comes to the studio.
Hi, Richard.
And he's made that same error yet again. But I must say he's looking very dapper this evening.
Good evening, Stuart. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. How's the Christmas spirit in the Netherlands?
Well, I've done 3 feeds already today. As you probably know, I've got twins just been born down here by my daughter, which is wonderful. And I've got half an hour to spare, so it's great to speak to you guys in Marbella.
So what happens in half an hour? Do you have to change some more nappies again, or what?
I'm due for the next feed for my grandson.
I hope you're not feeding... I hope you're feeding from a bottle.
Yeah.
We won't go any further than that.
No further.
And the family's all in good health, I imagine.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, all well, all well.
Excellent, Stu.
I can't think of a better place to spend Christmas, really, than Amsterdam.
You know what, I was going to mention that, actually, just as a bit of a joke, but Stuart's a very upstanding citizen and a decent human being. As for you, I'm afraid to say you probably get lost in those...
I was referring to the myriad of art galleries.
Yeah, of course, Richard, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you'd make a little pit stop at those very smoky coffee shops where everybody seems to be either paranoid or laughing.
I mean, either the Rijksmuseum or the Van Gogh Museum are absolutely... excellent, Dominic. I would recommend them.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, you do actually have a bit of an arty background, don't you? It's...
He's very educated, you know that, Richard.
He pretends to be very, very educated, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's all a pretense.
Well, he certainly is very educated when it comes to sport. That's why he joins us every Friday. And a warm welcome to you as well, Rich. Thanks so much for coming in. Stu's got only half an hour there, so we're going to talk, obviously, a little bit about football. And for the listeners out there, the whole show is not going to be about football, I can assure you. We've got plenty of other stuff, so stay tuned. Just a story I picked up on today, Stu. I don't know whether you've actually picked up on it. It was a breaking story quite late this afternoon that UEFA has made an announcement that Malaga will be excluded from the next European competition from which they qualify after failing to meet financial requirements. We knew that this was going to be happening. The Andalusians, who finished 4th last season, they're in the Champions League at the moment, but this could be really bad news for Malaga Football Club.
Well, I hadn't heard that. I must be honest. That is terrible, isn't it? When new owners come in and promise so much to the club and have done a lot for the club, let's not say they haven't, but to let them down in this way and for UEFA to, I mean, really, it's the directors maybe they should be going after, not the fans that are supporting Malaga through this wonderful season. I think that's terrible.
Well, they have until apparently the 31st of March in 2013 where they have to basically prove that they've paid all the football clubs. They've obviously paid the social security for their players and as well as paid their players.
Oh, so this is on hold now until March. They haven't made a confirmed... they haven't taken the chance of Malaga playing again next year away.
They've given them a deadline.
To clear all this debt?
Say again?
They've got till March to clear the debt?
They've got till March to clear the debt, but I mean, can they realistically do it?
Well, of course.
Well, the people who own the club have put all this money in. When you're talking about a hell of a lot of euros here, I mean, it's for them. I mean, this is ridiculous. Malaga got their biggest game in their history coming up in February. To have this over their heads is just ridiculous, especially for the players. Don't forget, the players are going out to give their all, and now they're thinking even if they win, they're not going to be in next year's. Even if they finish fourth, you're taking away the whole. It's a terrible thing when you think about it. They've had 4 or 5 months to go in the league. They've been told this is going to happen. I mean, that takes away all the feelings that these players have when they go out to give 100%.
Well, I just can't believe it'll happen, to be honest, because it will certainly reduce the sale value of the club. And if Sheikh Al Thani is looking to sell Malaga, then, I mean, he'd be really cutting off his nose, I mean, to spite his face, wouldn't he?
Richard, I hear there's loads of other clubs also have got debts. I don't know if they're still in the European competitions, but they seem to be taking out on Malaga more than any of the clubs in the Spanish league.
I mean, but presuming Malaga do still finish, I mean, they're currently fourth in La Liga, and presuming that they do finish fourth in La Liga, then obviously it's a major financial incentive to maintain that status within Europe so they can participate next year because of the enormous revenue that will be forthcoming. And anybody who's going to buy the club off the Sheikh is almost certainly going to want that revenue stream to be included in their future projections. And so I just think that it would just be insanity. I can't believe that somebody who's made that much money would be so ridiculous. I can't, to be honest. I mean, and they have got 3 months, and you know what it's like here. It's tomorrow.
Well, I hope you're right. But this Porto match coming up shortly, I mean, the excitement there must be in southern Spain at the moment. I mean, you're looking so forward to this fabulous game they've got shortly. It really struck me here because I wasn't aware of this, and to hear this news is just terrible. As a Malaga fan, in the last couple of years in particular, I find it incredible to get to this sort of stage.
You're talking about Porto. We're going to be talking about the Champions League draw very shortly, and the Europa League as well, Stu, because I know your team is part of that. From one club that is slightly struggling for money at the moment to another that isn't. This is under UEFA's financial fair play rules, which kick in very soon. PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, we know they're not short of a few quid or two. To overcome that, they've managed to get an investment of 200 million euros a year from the Qatar Tourist Board. I mean, that's one way to solve your problems, isn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Going from one extreme to the other here, aren't we? I mean, there couldn't be a more wealthy club than Paris at the moment, and I just find that incredible, really. I mean, all this, I don't know, there's good and bad in all sides of football. It's making football a little bit disadvantaged. The rich are going to get richer, and as they say, the poorer get poorer, because all this money that's been putting into some of these clubs, I mean, it gives them every chance of winning every trophy that's out there.
Well, shall we just talk very quickly about this UEFA fair play law that's coming in? There might be a lot of listeners out there that don't quite understand it. Rich, are you up to speed with the fair play and yourself as well, Stu? Well,
my understanding of it is that a club cannot spend more than it earns in revenue.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. So what PSG have done is, quite simply brilliant, if you ask me. I don't know what you make of that, Stu.
Well, Chris, Richard, isn't the wage structure, isn't it supposed to be that they can only spend 50% of the income of the club on wages? Isn't there something to do with the wage structure?
Yeah, I think there are other sort of details to it, but I think that's basically, what I was saying is that they can't spend more than they earn. But I think there are also other provisos within that. I think you're correct.
It's like any business. They find laws and rules to bend and twist to make it right, I'm sure.
Sure, that's why I think this transfer window is going to be one of the most exciting transfer windows for some time, because the new rules don't come into play until the end of the season.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're very right. We need to have a look at these laws, Richard, next time, both of us, and see exactly where they take these clubs.
Transfer window, we're going to be really getting hot on that, obviously coming closer to the new year, which is not very far away, of course, and in January we're going to be following that with great interest. I think it's going to be very exciting. 1 or 2 clubs have already made moves to seal the signatures of current players. Arsenal produced a pretty good performance in the beginning of the week, and they have sealed the signatures again of Jack Wilshere, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Kieran Gibbs, Aaron Ramsey and Carl Jenkins. Liverpool today as well, Raheem Sterling at the age of 18 years old old, has been signed to Liverpool. They're looking at Paul Ince's son as well from Blackburn in the January transfer window. Gentlemen, Raheem Sterling, he's been in the press quite a lot over the last couple of days. A young man, has yet to really establish himself at the club level yet, but apparently a highly talented young kid. Tell us what you know about him.
Well, Sterling's come through the youth in Liverpool and has gone from strength to strength. I mean, the kid is actually a fabulous player. I mean, he's so young, he's got so much potential. The few times I've seen him play, he looks one of the most exciting wingers with Chamberlain of Arsenal that I've seen for many, many years. And I think his wages have gone up enormously from a couple of thousand a week, I think, isn't it, to about 50,000 a week, 40,000 a week, I think. So I should think him and his family over Christmas are going to be celebrating and be very happy. But, you know, the kid's done very well. What's so nice is that he wants to stay at Liverpool. He's not looking to boost that money, which he probably could go in elsewhere. And I think it's lovely when a kid comes through the academies and builds their strength and their tools, given all their teachings through their years. It's wonderful they stay at the clubs that they've grown up with.
Absolutely, and a decent wage for, I think he's still 17 years old, if I'm correct in saying.
Yeah, young boy.
Still much speculation surrounding whether Theo Walcott's going to put pen to paper. Walcott, this is a big decision for him at this stage of his career, although we all know that contracts these days don't mean an awful lot, but I'm sure behind the scenes he is listening or potentially thinking about other clubs. I
think Arsene Wenger said recently that they've virtually done a deal. I think they're just quibbling over a few bob and maybe with the agents, and I'm sure he'll sign. I leave Arsenal with a very strong British squad there. You know, these players are excellent players, and I think Wilshere and Ramsey is going to be the strength of Arsenal over the years to come. I mean, well, how wonderful to build a team when you've got two players like that are so tremendous as far as football quality goes, and they're so young. I think it's a good week for Arsenal.
Football fans around the world, I know very much yourself, Stu, would have had your eyes either on the television on Thursday or your ears near a radio to listen to the Europa League draws and the Champions League draw. We'll begin with the Europa League. I tell you what, there's a couple of high-quality teams now that have fallen through into this from the Champions League. One of them, the defending champions, Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur there, obviously Newcastle, Inter Milan, Lazio. There's a lot of very top clubs there, steeped in good European history as well. What do you make of that draw?
Oh, I think there's a tremendous draw. When you look at some of the teams that are left in there, you know, I know the Champions League has got the elite, but in the Europa you've got Ajax, Fenerbahce, Benfica, Bayer Leverkusen, Bordeaux, Napoli, Inter Milan, Stuttgart, Lazio, Gladbach, Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea. You've got so many wonderful teams in this tournament, and some great games as well. I mean, Leverkusen are playing Benfica, Inter Milan are playing Cluj, and this is just a few. Ajax are playing Bucharest, Zenit St. Petersburg, Liverpool, Newcastle playing Kharkiv, Spurs, Lyon. I mean, that's going to be a terrific game. Lyon, the top of the French league, joint French with Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille. I mean, what a great night for Spurs supporters there. And Chelsea go to Sparta Prague. I mean, some fabulous matches. I'm really, really looking forward to this. And also, being a Spurs supporter, if we do beat Lyon, we've got Inter Milan probably in the quarter-finals. So a lot to look forward to.
A little bit of history there with Inter Milan and Gareth Bale, isn't there?
Yeah, well, you remember so well, I'm sure. I mean, Gareth Bale, I think they're fear him wherever we play in Europe. You know, he's one of the best players in the European sector at the moment, and thank God he's fit also for the weekend against Stoke, which is great news. But I'm sure we'll come back to that later on.
Champions League, which took place a little bit earlier on Thursday before the Europa League. All eyes were on that, and wow, what a draw for Manchester United and Real Madrid. Ronaldo is set for his United return in the Champions League. I mean, what a fantastic fixture that is.
Well, it's a great time for United to be playing Real Madrid, I think. I think if I'd gone back about a couple of months ago, I think I'd probably say Real Madrid comfortably, but I think there's a lot of problems going on there, especially with Sega with his league results at the moment. You can't write Manchester United off, but I fancy Real Madrid to go through. I just think they're a stronger side, a stronger outfit, but it's going to be a very, very hard game for both sides over the two legs, and also a great game to look forward to, as is Arsenal and Bayern Munich. What a game that's going to be. And there's some fabulous matches here, and also Celtic and Juventus. I mean, you know, Celtic on their own territory can probably beat anyone. Whether they can do it over two legs remains to be seen. AC Milan v Barcelona. I mean, you know, you're picking these games. Every single game is a great game. But for me, Porto and Malaga, that's where I'm looking so forward to. That should be what an atmosphere that's going to be at Malaga.
Malaga must be delighted with that draw. Looking at the English clubs, though, I mean, is it realistic that an English club is going to be represented, guys, in the last in the quarterfinals, should I say, of the Champions League? Looking at those fixtures, it looks highly unlikely.
Well, So I think you could look at that and say that, obviously. I mean, Bayern Munich are probably stronger than Arsenal, Madrid stronger than United, and it's easy to say that, isn't it? But, on these games, they're one-off games. You're playing 90 minutes in one ground, 90 minutes in the other. It all depends what happens from that first leg, and no, I wouldn't write off the British clubs. It's too easy to say that, and I know the papers have said that already, that there may not be a club in the quarter-final for the first time for many years. But I don't see it that way. I think Arsenal will give a very good account, and United obviously the same. And United are fortunate that they go to Madrid for the first leg, to the Bernabeu, so at least they know what they've got to do when they return. Celtic and Juventus, who knows? Celtic get a one-goal lead or two, or anything, even a draw against Juventus, and don't concede a goal at home. Celtic could do anything after what they achieved last time.
I think Richard wanted to add something to that. He's listening very intently.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot will, firstly, when you look at the Bayern Munich-Arsenal game, I think a lot will depend on how much Wenger strengthens his squad in January. And certainly, to my opinion, he's at least 3 or 4 players short of a strong and consistent team. And I think he's got to the point where he can no longer, rely on Diaby to always be fit. And he keeps saying, well, when Diaby's back, we play in a certain way, we play much better. But the problem is that he's been away too much through injury, and I don't think you can base the whole style of your play and formation on just one player. I think he needs to be a little bit more flexible, and I think he's also got a few problems at the back as well that he needs to address. To me, I think the toughest.
I agree with you, Richard, but
I think the toughest tie really is, and I think that Celtic couldn't have had a worse tie, because Juventus are one of these teams who'll sit back, wait for Celtic to come at them, and that's not really the tempo that Celtic like to play at. And, and also, I mean, with Pirlo sitting at the back, orchestrating those absolutely majestic passes, I think that it's going to be a really tough game. I think for Celtic, I've played, remarkably well so far in the tournament, and I think any other team, bar Juve and Barcelona, or Real Madrid, they'd have had a pretty good chance. But Juve, I'm not too sure. But I think I've got a feeling that Manchester United might just do it over Real Madrid.
Just going back to what you said about the Arsenal, the only thing is, even if they've got money to spend, which supposedly they have, you can't go, most of the players, the good players out there, are probably cup-tied, having played in the competition already. So I don't think you can improve the actual squad that much for the European fixtures. I'd be very surprised if you can find someone who hasn't got cup-tied already. I suppose if you take the 3 matches as you look, I'd say United have got probably more chance of beating Real Madrid than any of the other British clubs.
Well, he can always buy from South America, and he can also buy any player who's played in the Europa League.
Yes, but is he looking in those directions? I mean, the Europa League, we always, as Dominic says, the Mickey Mouse League. I mean,
well, there's been some very, very good teams in. Sure, there's been some very good teams in the Europa League, and there's some very, very good players. I mean, to my mind, there's talk of Demba Ba going to Arsenal. And when you look at the inconsistency of their strikers up front, I think that would be a tremendous signing for him, given his goals per game ratio. Yes,
I read today, I heard that Newcastle, Alan Pardew had agreed a fee for the Marseille striker, Remy, because Demba Ba is going to be leaving, as you say, in the new year. I don't know if that's true. It's only something I heard on the radio late this afternoon, but what you said probably makes it absolutely what's going to be happening. I didn't realise he was going to the Arsenal.
Well, there has been talk of him going to the Arsenal, and if he did, I think that, bearing in mind the problems they've had with Chamakh, Gervinho, and even Giroud, though he's, I suppose, picked up a little bit of form recently, to my mind, he doesn't strike me as a player who's going to guarantee 20 goals a season.
No, he's come on in the recent weeks. I think when he's been playing him, I think he's played a lot better than what he played in the earlier parts of the season. But again, I don't disagree with you. And how good is Demba Ba? Because he had a busy time in Newcastle scoring goals early last season and went on a bit of a drought towards the end of the season. He's one of these guys. I'm not sure. I can't say he's not proven, but it depends what they're going to... They haven't got to pay for him. He's out of contract, isn't he?
Well, I think he's out of contract at the end of the season, so they can get him at I think a very cheap price. And also, he's got a release clause in his contract, which if any club in the comes in with a bid, I think of $7 million, then he can go.
Gentlemen?
Well, him and Sissy, for Newcastle, I think they've been brilliant, the two of them, right through the last 12 months. And they've been a tremendous twosome up front.
Gentlemen, I'm just going to come in there because I'm looking at the time there, Stu. You've got 5 minutes before you have your grandfatherly responsibilities with the Twins. We're just going to move things forward a little bit. Winter break has already kicked in Germany. In the Bundesliga, we know that. Bayern Munich is sitting comfortably 9 points clear of Leverkusen at the top there. Bayern Munich have been in pretty good form in the league so far. And in Europe, of course, they are through to the last 16.
Well, isn't it nice against Europe with the 9-point lead? They've got a nice rest until, I think, the 19th of January when they recommence. And as I say, for Bayern, it's a nice feeling. I mean, they've done so well. They've had a very, very good start of the season for the matches. You can't really complain about that. They've only lost one match. I mean, it's a tremendous start. So, no, I think for Bayern, I think they can sit back and look forward to the new year with a lot of joy.
Pretty similar situation in Serie A, although the winter break hasn't quite started yet. It does begin on Saturday as the last of the matches, but Juventus are sitting pretty comfortably. They've only lost 2 matches, drawn 2, 113 from their 17, sitting top of Serie A on 41 points. Quite a distance, certainly daylight there ahead of Inter Milan. In the last 3 to 4 weeks or so, Milan dropping a few points, Lazio dropping a few points, and Juventus continuing on their merry way, creating that daylight.
Well, again, Juventus, they're 7 points clear of Inter Milan. Again, going into a Christmas break, they're back on January the 6th. I mean, how nice is that? When you've got these little points free, you can breathe a bit. You've got the new season, you've got the new start of the season in January, and you've got the cups coming up, and you're that many points clear. I mean, 22 from 30 they've got in their last matches. It's a lovely lead to have, and I'm sure they're very confident going forward. They've got another hard match tonight, actually, against Cagliari, who are 15th in the league. To get a win there, and who knows, they could be 10 points clear by the time we get to the weekend.
Stu, it's anybody's guess.
I mean, I was going to say to you, Dominic, the most interesting thing is the French division, because it's changing the top of that table. Paris Saint-Germain, Lyon and Marseille, they're changing places every single game.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to lead on to next, actually. The three are locked on 35 points. The PSG top, Lyon second, Marseille third. Goal difference just being the difference there at this stage. It's anybody's guess who's going to be Christmas number 1 in the French league, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been so exciting watching that recently. But I think Paris Saint-Germain, they get a win this evening. They're away to Brest, and I think, that if they get the win, they'll be comfortably still there on the top, whatever happens with the other 2 matches because of goal difference. But again, they've had a marvellous run, and it's been very interesting watching the French league. I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes through the next into 2013.
Barcelona runaway leaders in La Liga at this stage. Stu, one more round of matches this weekend, and the very big one at La Rosaleda Stadium, Malaga versus Real Madrid. I can't remember the last time these two played each other when Malaga was only 1 place behind Real Madrid. It would be detrimental to their La Liga aspirations, Madrid, if they lose on Saturday to Malaga.
Well, I don't know if you saw the game last weekend against Espanyol. I mean, to draw 2-2 was just a shocking result. Espanyol got a goal late in the game, but Madrid just aren't firing at all, and I'm sure the heads must be down. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I say ridiculous. 13 points behind Barcelona at Christmas at the moment is quite incredible. I think Malaga have got ever such a good chance of getting the result tomorrow. I really, really do. I think they'll be full of confidence because their results haven't been bad, Malaga, recently. There are 2 wins on the trot, and they're sitting nicely in 4th place. I think, honestly, if Malaga go for it tomorrow, I think they could really give Real Madrid, for the first time for years, a really, really good game. I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a great excitement, a great atmosphere in the stadium tomorrow evening.
Stu, very quickly, a couple more minutes to go. Premiership action over the festive period, a real defining moment in the season. Coming the other side of New Year, you've normally got a pretty good idea who's going to be fighting it out for the Champions League places and who's going to be battling it out for, obviously, the relegation zones as well. What do you make of this festive season? Tottenham Hotspur, of course, have snuck up there very quietly under the radar in 4th place. How's it looking for you guys fixture-wise over the course of the next couple of weeks?
Well, listen, none of these games are easy. You've got next 10 days. We've got Stoke at home on Saturday. You know very well it's a really hard game. Anyone who's playing Stoke. Aston Villa away on Boxing Day, a very hard game. Villa are coming into form very well at the moment. Sunderland away. I mean, that's a tricky game. Though Sunderland have been poor. Reading at home. That's an easier game, obviously. But all these games are difficult. Manchester United have got Swansea away, Newcastle home, West Bromwich at home, Wigan away. Manchester City, Reading home, Sunderland away, Norwich away, Stoke home. You look at these fixtures of all these clubs, really, there's nothing easy in the Premier. Nothing at all. Even when top plays bottom, these are hard games, nothing's for sure. Queen's Park Rangers had their first win under Harry Redknapp last week. I mean, they'll really be pushing it. They've got Newcastle away, which will be an intriguing game tomorrow. Then West Bromwich Albion at home, Liverpool home, Chelsea away. Not easy fixtures at all for a holiday fixture list. Like every time, when this comes around, if you're a football purist and you love your games, there's so much to look forward to, so much to see, and I think it's going to be a great 10 days of football in the Premier League.
Well, of course, Stuart's no-show would be complete without a little dig at Spurs, and you said about the aspirations of the team and hoping to win, but the thing is, it doesn't matter what your fixtures are. Whilst you've got old AVB, you're always going to struggle, aren't you?
Richard, don't start. I'm a long way from home. I can't even attack you. I'm not in the studio. AVB's doing fine. He's doing nothing wrong at all.
Stu, as soon as you're off the line, I'm going to say a few nice things about AVB and Spurs.
Okay. I'll make sure that I'm listening to it on the radio here, which I've got by the side of me, so I can answer you when I'm back in the studio in the new year.
Well, Stuart, it is that time now. You've got your responsibilities and your duties to do. Sincere thanks to you for coming on the show and doing all your prep as you all do so diligently. Next week, the three of us are going to be linking up in the pre-recorded studio at some stage. I'll let you know about that. We're putting together a year in sports show. You doing the football side of it. Thanks very much for that, and a Merry Christmas to you, your family, Jackie, the twins, and enjoy your stay there, and we look forward to speaking to you next week, Stu.
The same to you and Richard and all the listeners out there that have been listening through the season, through the year. I've really enjoyed working with you boys, and I wish you all the best for the new year, though I'll speak to you before, and have a wonderful Christmas to everyone.
Happy Christmas, Stu. Good on you, mate.
Kenny's just Kenny's just coming in here very quickly. Kenny wants to just say something.
Merry Christmas, Stuart. Have a great time, my friend.
And to you, Ken. Be well and have a good Christmas and a healthy New Year.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
All right, Kenny got his little...
You're welcome.
Chris, Stu, take care. Thanks so much. We're going to go to a commercial break and we'll see you the other side of things.
Bye. Nice speaking to you.
Cheers, Stu.
TRE, your voice in Spain and around the world.
Tomato dribbles it past mozzarella and loses it to Beefy. Beefy runs with it, goes on the counter-attack of Beefy, and Beefy scores and the crowd goes wild. It's the Friday Sports Bar on Talk Radio Europe with Dom Aldworth.
Good evening and welcome back to the show, and with Richard Tilsley and with Stuart Joseph, who kindly joined us on the telephone there to talk his football as our football expert. He's in the Netherlands with his family. We were going to move on to rugby, but you want to talk about DVD or BVB or something like that?
Well, I mean, I said I'd say some nice things about Spurs as Stuart's not here, and I have to be honest with you, Dominic. I am beginning to warm to old DVD.
Why is that?
Well, because I think that he's one of the most comical figures that has been in football for years and years and years. I mean, those linguistic acrobatics that he comes out with are just absolutely...
Have you got any examples?
Yes, well, he sort of talks about inserting into the football method.
Inserting into the football method. What do you think that means?
I have absolutely no idea. And then he likes to talk about players' human qualities. Okay, and I don't know whether he's referring to the fact that they've got, 2 legs, 2 arms, or, they're a nice bloke. But anyway, when I think of, and one of the other reasons I'm warming to him is because it's as though Warren Beatty, has morphed into David Brent from The Office.
Warren Beatty?
Yeah.
Has morphed into David Brent from The Office. Well, you've lost me.
Okay. You must know who Warren Beatty is.
Yeah, the actor.
Yeah, and you must know who David Brent is.
No.
You've never seen The Office with Ricky Gervais?
I've seen it once before, twice before, but which one's David Brent then?
David Brent is the character played by Ricky Gervais in The Office.
Oh, right. Well, clearly I haven't watched it.
It's a classic of British comedy.
And what does that have to do with Spurs and DVD?
Well, because he is like a combination of Warren Beatty and David Brent.
I'm going to have to watch... well, if you disagree with Richard or you agree with him, give us a call in the studio.
So I think anybody who is working in football with those sorts of qualities is somebody who needs closer attention.
Well, I think you're the one that needs attention, to be perfectly honest. I mean, how can you refer to somebody like that? That's the most ridiculous explanation I've ever heard.
But it is. I mean, he's got the vanity of Warren Beatty, and he's got this kind of like linguistic acrobatic managerial sort of non-speak of David Brent. Okay, where he can sort of talk all this verbiage without it actually meaning it.
Well, I'm going to have a look at his body language, listen to one or two of his press conferences, and I'll see. Well, hang on.
We've got a caller on the line.
Yeah, now let's see if hopefully they're going to tell you that you're talking a load of nonsense. But we're going to bring you on now, caller. Good evening. You're live on Talk Radio Europe in the Sports Bar. Thanks for ringing up.
It's Stuart again. Before I leave, I've never heard anything like that in my life. Where does he get that from?
Thanks, Stuart. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is a caller calling from Amsterdam or from the Netherlands to tell you that you're ridiculous.
Well, I'm just obviously he's got nothing better to do with this time.
Richard, this is a serious programme.
I mean, it morphed into Warren Beatty and some character from The Office. This is a sports show, for goodness sake.
Bye, guys. I'll leave you to it, Richard. Ta-da. Good night. Bye-bye.
Cheers, cheers.
So that's why I am warming to DVD.
Well, that's fantastic. You do warm to some strange characters, don't you?
I warm to you, Dominic.
Well, I'm a strange character, aren't I?
Yeah, not many people do. But I do.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but that's... Well,
come back week after week.
Oh, God, what do you want me to say? Thank you or what? Okay, let's get serious now. Okay, let's talk a bit of rugby. Because there was a big announcement made about 10 days or so ago. We didn't have an opportunity to cover it in the sports show because we were so busy with interviews and various other things. British Lions going down under next year, a massive tour. Lots of really good young quality throughout the British and Irish Lions and club rugby at the moment. The coaching staff has been announced. Warren Gatland, the Six Nations winner for Wales, will be involved in that. Man, very, very qualified. He's done some fantastic things with the Welsh Rugby Union team. Andy Farrell, we all remember him from his Wigan Rugby League days, a rugby convert as well, as the defensive coach. And Graham Roundtree and Rob Howley, who went to South Africa on the previous British Lions tour. What do you make of that as a coaching unit?
Excellent choice. Excellent choice. I mean, obviously... you know, what you get with ex-rugby league players is a very sound defensive strategy and superb tackling. And those are the, I think, the sort of disciplines that Farrell has brought to both to the English team and will bring to the Lions team. I mean, you only had to see the tackle rate of the English team in the autumn internationals, especially in the game against the All Blacks, and they were ferocious in the tackle.
Very well organised defence.
Very well organised, and I think that was one of the things that really took the All Blacks by surprise. Is that normally they expect, you know, a far easier game in terms of, you know, being allowed to develop their attacking options, but they were just snuffed out.
And it could be a father and son occasion as well on the British Lions tour, because his younger son, Owen Farrell, who's now occupying the number 10 jersey for England, will more than likely be going on this tour.
Well, I think almost certainly. I think, though, Johnny Sexton has
probably sealed the starting fly-off, yeah. But it'll be good. It'll be good for him, certainly for the younger Farrell, to know that his father's there. Andy Farrell, the other great thing...
But also interesting to see how Freddie Burns develops over the Six Nations.
Well, we'll talk in July time. I think they go down under, so there's still a bit of time.
You know, because there's no Reece Priestland. So, you know, they're going to be looking to take, you know, there's going to be at least 3 fly halves going.
The coaching team got together last night just to have a bit of a discussion as to potentially what their squad could be at this stage, and they seem to be having a lot of problems. They've got a lot of quality in a lot of different positions. They had a lot of trouble trying to figure out who would be their provisional squad at this stage. We're going to hear from these 3 guys, which they spoke earlier today, just to get their thoughts on where they are at this stage ahead of the Lions tour in July.
The squad at the moment, because, you know, you're actually not making the final decision. You know, you can say, oh, you know, it's him or him, but when you've got to hang your hat finally on it, you know, it's going to be... and that was 2 or 3 hours yesterday, just going through picking a squad of 30 odd, and but I think when we finally do come to it, it's going to be, you know, some really tough calls. You know, if you're looking at, you know, 3 hookers, you take 3 9s, 3 10s.
You may not have 3 10s left to take the way things are going.
Well, that's you know, again, and there's probably one position you look at it, you know, has there been a really dominant 10?
How inventive have you guys got to be in terms of your selection to try and fit world-class players into the team when there may be a logjam in one particular position?
There's logjams in many positions, and we could certainly deal with taking a squad of 50. You know, we're trying to get under 40 because you want to take enough guys to do a good job, but you don't want a lot of guys sat around twiddling their thumbs. So that's a balance for us in terms of our selection. And we had a quick stab at it last night. I say a quick stab, we spent 3 hours trying to select the squad last night, an hour of which was on the back row.
An hour for 3 was on the back row?
Yeah, not a word of a lie. Yeah.
You look at 13. You've got 3 players at 13 who could win the series for you, in Davis, in O'Driscoll and in Tuilagi. I mean, 3 of them are that good game breakers. Do you have to sit here now, Warren, and say to yourself, I've got to find a way of getting each of those guys into the team somewhere, or 2 of them into the team somewhere, or I just have to pick the best one to play the first test against Australia, and if the other 2 don't play, tough?
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is yes. I mean, one of them's making it easier for the moment because he's injured. But he's potentially going to be back soon. So you're talking about 3 quality players, and one with a lot of experience who's been there, done that, and 2 younger up-and-coming centres who seem to be getting better and better every test match they play.
Tuilagi through the first 2, through 3.
I'm not afraid of those making those calls, and obviously the other coaches will have a huge input into that and final selection. And it's a nice position in certain areas to be in.
Some big headaches there listening to that, Richard, with regard to selection. Good headaches, I might add, because they got some quality players and quality positions. We spoke very briefly about the fly half berth, but one that they mentioned there in the centre, you got O'Driscoll, you got Tuilagi who's performing at the moment.
Forget O'Driscoll.
Both number 13s, then they're not going to leave him behind.
Forget O'Driscoll.
What makes you say that?
A superb player that he was, his best days are undoubtedly past him, and I think we've seen that over the last few seasons. The O'Driscoll of 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, is not the O'Driscoll of the last couple of seasons. And I think to a certain extent because he is such a legend in the game, that is why he is still being considered. It's almost like the Indians with Tendulkar, And I think that to a certain extent that the Irish team have been slightly hampered by always having to pick him.
But you don't think they'll take him along? They're obviously playing a lot of rugby when they're down under. They've got midweek games as well. You don't think his experience will be invaluable to the youngest?
I think you've got to. No, I don't. I think that you've got to have players in the B team who are good enough to step into the first team, into the A team. And I don't think he is when you look at the competition. I mean, he is not in the same class as Tuilagi.
If we had had this conversation 6 to 8 months ago, we'd probably be going, the bulk of the British Lions, certainly starting 15, would be made up primarily of the Welsh international side. I think that shift in power has now turned towards England, certainly, hasn't it?
Well, it depends on what areas, Dominic. I mean, I still think that with the Welsh wings and the centre as well. I think Roberts, is it at 12?
Yeah, Roberts at 12.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he is, and also, I mean, Halfpenny at fullback as well. I mean,
George North on the wing.
Well, and George North on the wing as well. I mean, and he is a tremendous talent. So I think that there is going to be a very strong Welsh contingent there, and I think also in the front row, I think you're looking at people like Adam Jones. But I think that the powerhouse of the team is, as you say, is probably going to come from England. Which is certainly very different to how one might have perceived it, say, 9 months ago before.
And there'll be quite a few English players that didn't feature in the autumn internationals that have been recovering from injury. That'll be back. People like Courtney Laws, the lock forward, a tremendous athlete, Courtney Laws, a great young talent. He'll come into the reckoning as well.
Also, I'm really interested to see what everyone's talking in France about Stefan Armitage and the blistering form he's showing in French rugby. And a lot of people are tipping him for a return to the Six Nations, and I'm really looking forward to see exactly what a couple of seasons over there has done for his game. Because one thing that a lot of players talk about now is that you go to France and you improve your game.
Absolutely, and if you look at where he's playing as well, down there on the Côte d'Azur, I think it's called, at Toulon, fantastic group of players that they've got there. Veteran of 92 test matches for Australia, Matt Giteau playing in the centre, Johnny Wilkinson, who's occupying the number 10 jersey very successfully, Joe Funny Kirk, former international player from South Africa, Bucky's Buerta, a World Cup winner. Armitage is in good company there, and Toulon are top of the top 14 as well at this stage.
Well, I mean, it's the powerhouse of French rugby in the southwest, and they are absolutely obsessed with it. It is their national sport. They prefer it to football down there, and it's no coincidence that all the top French rugby teams come from the southwest. I mean, Toulouse, Toulon, Pau,
And the French side's just shifting away from international rugby towards the Heineken Cup, which took place 2 weeks in a row last weekend. That's now been put on ice until February. We're just going to have a quick look through these pool tables and where the English clubs are sitting. The most impressive sides for me in the Heineken Cup so far, after 4 rounds, have certainly come from the French as well. Clermont-Auvergne, we always knew they were going to be very powerful. And this Toulon side as well that we were just talking about. Unbeaten, Clermont unbeaten, but also the likes of Saracens, who top pool 1, Leicester top pool 2, Harlequins top pool 3. So great British representation there. Ulster lost their very first match in all competitions this season last weekend. They sit top of pool 4. As already mentioned, pool 5 is Clermont and pool 6 is Toulon. The winner is going to come more than likely from one of those teams. I'm sort of veering towards the French.
Well, I think that, when you look at the top French teams and, the 3 English teams you've picked, I mean, you're talking about the creme de la creme of European rugby. And I don't think there's a lot between them, to be honest, Dominic. I mean, especially, I think Saracens are playing some very, very good rugby at the moment. And evidence of that was their win against Ulster.
Heineken Cup is now, as mentioned, been put on hold. We're turning our attention now to top 14 that we've mentioned briefly. Toulon are sitting top of that. The Aviva Premiership is very, very tight. What you got here? You've got 5 points separating the top 6. Harlequins, Saracens, Northampton, Leicester Tigers, Gloucester and Exeter. Only 5 points separating them, but more poignantly, Harlequins, Saracens, Northampton Saints, Leicester Tigers. Either one of those, if they win this weekend, can actually go top. So at the halfway stage of the season, massively exciting Aviva Premiership League there.
It is, though. The only thing is, I feel with the Aviva Premiership League is that it doesn't really get exciting until the end of the season with the playoffs.
With the playoffs, yeah.
Because it really is irrelevant what position the teams finish in, as long as it's in the top 4.
Big fixtures.
Because there's no prize for finishing first in the league.
What do you make of that whole system anyway, the playoffs?
I think it's ridiculous. I think it diminishes the competition of the league, and I can understand why they did it, because they want the big paydays at Twickers. But I think that as a system, I don't think it works. But I suppose the other argument is that they need a system like that because the top clubs lose so many of their top players during both the Six Nations and the Autumn Internationals.
But then you can also, I mean, if it's the winner of the league wins the table, I mean, the season's almost over then in the Rainbow Pro 12 Direct, because Ulster have 10 from 10, 43 points, they're already 9 points clear. So you could actually have a situation like that where the season's almost finished, you know who the winner's going to be.
Well, so many times in the past, Dominic, I mean, if you think of especially teams like Leicester, after the Six Nations, they'd probably be languishing in 6th or 5th place. But, come the end of the Six Nations, suddenly they've got, 6 international players, sometimes even 10 international players back in the team, and they win the rest of their games, or win 80% of the rest of their games, make the playoffs, and then they win the title.
Well, the season continues this weekend. That is the Aviva Premiership. Some big fixtures to keep your eye on, rugby fans. London Irish host Leicester Tigers. Northampton Saints take on Harlequins in a top-of-the-table clash there. Gloucester versus Exeter Chiefs, who are having a very good season. And on Sunday, London Wasps versus the hapless Sale Sharks. I'm afraid they're enduring one of their worst seasons in their history. And just a couple of fixtures in the Rainbow. North of the border, Ulster versus Leinster. That's the big one there. Ulster undefeated in the league so far, 10 victories from 10 games. They only suffered their first loss of the season in the Heineken Cup last week, so it's good stuff there. Great season so far from Ulster, and I'd like to boast off the fact because of their superb South African contingent that led them to the final of the Heineken Cup last year. We're going to talk. Should we talk about a little bit about cricket, Rich? Amazing series when.
I'm surprised you want to, Dominic.
Well, why wouldn't I?
Because it means you've got to big up the England team.
I thought it was a tremendous series. I mean, 84, 83, something like that. David Gower was
85,
the last, 85
yeah.
Last England captain to take an England side to the subcontinent of India and actually come away with a series win.
And I've got a feeling that they went 1-0 down as well in 85.
They might very well have done so. And I mean, that shows great character. Especially on those wickets, a very difficult place to play cricket, very hot, very humid, at times very intimidating. 1 or 2 debutants coming in and performing very well, especially young Joe Root, who you were talking about. He came in for the final test match in that troubled number 6 batting spot for England, and he looked like he might have just cemented himself a few more test matches there to prove himself.
Well, he's got everything required to be an international player for many, many years to come. I don't think he's number 6 batsman. He's an opening batsman. But he did a job that needed to be done. He cemented the middle order, and he allowed some of the other players around him to play their shots, Pryor and Swan, who both chipped in with absolutely vital runs. And as I said, he's technically he's absolutely perfect. He's foot to the pitch of the ball, head over. Straight bat.
Top performers for England during that series, as you would expect. The elder statesmen, the more experienced campaigners. Captain Alistair Cook certainly led from the front there. He deservedly won the Man of the Match series for his 562 runs at an average of 80.28. 300s involved in that. Kevin Peterson underlined his importance to England, coming back into the England side for this tour with 338 runs at an average of 48. And the spin duo, very much expected, of Graham Swan and Monty Panesar, delivering 37 wickets between them. Swan with 20, Panesar with 17 in his first Test series since March of last year against Sri Lanka.
I know it's always the spinners who get the plaudits in India, but I think that really you have to look at the bowling performance of James Anderson.
Jimmy Anderson was outstanding, wasn't he, in the last 2 Test matches?
Absolutely superb, because those are conditions that don't favour your fast bowlers. But he manages to consistently get reverse swing in those conditions, and in fact, he showed greater mastery of those conditions than some of the Indian quickies, which was, I thought, just a tremendous achievement.
Change of fortunes. The Test series was comfortably won by England in the end. The 2020 series has got underway yesterday. In fact, Yuvraj Singh, welcome back to Yuvraj Singh as well. Unfortunately, he was suffering from cancer and he was out of the game for a year. A great comeback from him to lead India to the first 5-wicket victory it was last night in the first of the 2020 matches.
But Dominic, the problem with the Indian Test team is the influence of 2020
They play
cricket.
too much 2020 cricket.
And in many of the dismissals in the Test matches, you could see the impatience of the players, because they were too accustomed to the far quicker pace of 2020, and also some of the shots they got out to were, to my mind, not Test cricket shots. They were sort of, 2020 shots.
The game, I'm just looking at the clock here, and we've still got one more commercial break to get through, which we will do actually right now, and we'll see the other side of these. Great stuff there from Amir Khan on the weekend in Los Angeles. It was a must-win fight for Amir Khan, Rich, following his 12 months really. His career was going down the pan. A 4th-round knockout of Danny Garcia in July, June. Before that, you had the Lamont Peterson, the shocking decision that went against him. In Los Angeles, over 10 rounds, actually, they threw the towel in. Molina really took a serious... The previously undefeated Molina took a serious beating. It was an excellent performance by Khan. I stayed up to watch that fight, and there was a clear difference between his style since he's joined Virgil Hunter, albeit only 8 weeks old, to some of the performances of the past. A highly talented, highly skilled performance from Amir Khan on the weekend.
Well, as you said, it was a fight that he needed to win, and certainly, I think that a lot of people are talking about the effect that the new coach has had on him. And, even though he always had a tremendous punch himself, Amir Khan, sometimes his defence was a little bit suspect. And from what I gather, that is what has been worked on, obviously to good effect, Dominic.
Very much so. There was a couple of occasions he was up against the ropes. His defence was excellent, but his counter-attacking was something that we hadn't quite seen before. I did have an interview to play with Amir, but unfortunately we don't have enough time. His eyes are very much on retaining his belts from Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia, unfortunately, has to fight Zab Judah beforehand, which I believe is in February. Khan would like to get back into the ring. He's saying maybe as early as April, the sooner the better, but his opponent has yet to be announced. I think expect an announcement, according to Golden Boy Promotions, during the course of next week or towards the end of the week. But nevertheless, great stuff there from Amir Khan. We've just got a couple of minutes to finish off, and Rory McIlroy, more accolades coming his way, Rich. We saw his achievements winning the money list on both sides of the Atlantic this year. Another major for Rory McIlroy at the age of 21. He now won the Golf Writers Association of America award. It's pretty obvious that he was going to win everything. Pretty similar to Luke Donald last year. Every accolade coming his way.
Well, he's just a tremendous talent, Dominic, and no surprise that I suppose he was also included in the British Sports Personality of the Year awards as well. I mean, he made the shortlist for that.
The only non-Olympian as well, wasn't he?
And well, I suppose, yeah. If you suppose Andy Murray, of course, was an Olympian as well, and probably in any other year apart from the superb year that British sport has enjoyed this year, he would have probably won. But as it was, I think he was probably way down the pecking list.
Absolutely. I mean, there were some fantastic achievers there as well. The golf tours are both now on a break, only for a couple of weeks. The PGA Tour resumes on the 4th of January at the Hyundai Champions Tournament in Hawaii. The South African Open, the Dunhill Links Championship, I beg your pardon, in South Africa is European Tour's next stop, and that's on the 7th in Durban. Charles Schwartzel's been performing pretty well in the last couple of weeks. A victory in Thailand and a 12-shot victory as well in South Africa, the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. Another player to watch for next year.
Absolutely, but I'll tell you one sport that is becoming very, very exciting at the moment, Dominic, is of course American football. I think the Super Bowl is probably only about 5-6 weeks away now, and it's in a couple of weeks it's going to be the playoffs.
It is. We're now into week 16. It's something that I cover. I was hoping to have a little bit of time talking about that this week, but hopefully we can free some of that time up next week. 2 more weeks of the regular season to go. The playoffs begin around about the 7th or the 8th of January, and then your Super Bowl is 4 weeks later, so it really is the business end of the season. We've only got about 20 seconds left, but we will start bringing you some real serious updates stateside on the NFL, but I've pretty much watched every single part of the NFL every week of the season so far, and I've found it highly absorbing.
And I'm certainly hoping that you're going to be able to persuade Steve, the manager, to send us to cover the Super Bowl live, Dominic.
That would be an extremely good idea. I couldn't agree with you more. Steve, if you're listening, that's on my Christmas wish list.
We'll get it sponsored, Steve.
Richard, a Merry Christmas to you. We've got 10 seconds to go. To all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Christmas.
Merry
To
Christmas.
yourself.
How do you say Merry Christmas in Afrikaans?
This is Talk Radio Europe on the hour. Live international news from Sky.